All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's AdvocateHub class. This week's class is called Getting Personal with Your Advocates. And your host or your teacher today is me, Don. I am one of your friendly neighborhood support magicians. You will have interacted with me over email, I'm sure. And I just wanted to give special thanks to someone else who helped me a lot with coming up with the content and researching this particular topic. That would be Deena, who is actually probably the newest member of the Influitive customer success team. So she's a customer marketing and advocacy consultant for us here, but just because she's new here doesn't mean that she doesn't have the experience. In fact, she worked for 10 years, I think 10 years at Smart Technologies, running their advocacy program. So a lot of the best practices and the ideas in this class are coming from her because she is one of the most successful advocate marketers we know, which is why we brought her on board here in Influitive. So just remember, no matter how difficult or maybe far-fetched some of the ideas seem, they are proven to be successful in practice. All right. Now I guess we should start by understanding what is the goal of today's class. So the goal is a little bit different. Really, at the end of the class, we want to come to the understanding that is listed here. So the goal is to understand that advocates are not just cogs in your advocacy machine. They are real people, right? And we want to help advocates also realize that you are a human. You have empathy and emotion. You are not just the hub admin. You are Denise, you are Holly, you are Jessica, you are Joe, right? You have names. You are not just the robot who is asking them to do things for them all the time. So that is today's goal, right? And one caveat, because a few people mentioned this personalization doesn't always scale well. But that is kind of the point, right? It's personalization. We want to help you become more one-to-one with your advocates. So they get to know you, you get to know them. It may not scale completely well. There are a few things you can do that can scale, but in reality, a lot of the things require a little bit of extra work and a lot of personalization from your side. And just because I'm curious, we're going to start off with a little poll. So this poll, I just wanted to see how many people have actually done a little bit of personalization so far in their hub. So the question is, I have sent my advocates a birthday message or email. That could have been through the hub or just through email like it says. Or I have sent an advocate an actual birthday card through the mail. And finally, I have sent advocates an actual physical birthday gift. So I'm curious how many people have actually gone through this. So you can check which one applies to you so that we can compare with all the other listeners today. So far, everybody has only given a birthday message or email electronically. And maybe Adam, who is my partner on the support team, he's pointing out that I didn't give a none option. So I guess I was being a little bit optimistic. But maybe, I guess if you're not answering, then it probably means you didn't do anything. So that means this class will hopefully be inspiring to you. So yeah, I think that's enough time. And I guess so far, everybody here has either done nothing or sent either electronic message or email. So that is the first step to being personal with your advocate, of course. But we do want to go a little bit deeper. So let's carry on. 100% so far just sent the birthday message or email. Okay. Now just before we begin getting into the meat of the class, I just wanted to give a few thoughts of how we interact with people on the support desk. Right? There's a reason we're called support magicians here on Influitive, or not support agents. You know how terrible it can be to call up a call center or email a support team and they give you canned responses. Nothing is personalized. They're very boring. Don't put any humor into it. That's not what we want to do here at Influitive. We want to add our personality into each interaction with you guys and girls. We want to make sure that you get to know us. I have a different personality than Adam and than Marie, and I encourage people to speak as if they're talking with a friend. And I would definitely recommend that you kind of do the same thing when you're talking with your advocates. Be personal. We have Holly mentioned that my audio is fading out. Is anybody else having that problem here? If you are, can you just let me know in the chat if the audio is not working too well? No? Ryan's all right? Adam's all right? Okay. So Holly, okay, thank you, Jessica. All right. So a few people, I guess, Holly, maybe there's something wrong with your audio, but in general, everybody is saying it sounds good. Thanks for the feedback. Okay. Yeah, so the point is, just like we add our personality when we're talking to you, the same thing should go when you're sending messages to your advocates. Add in your own personality. Okay. So here we'll start with what is the bare minimum. So maybe you don't want to go all in at first, but how can you just begin to get personal with your advocates? So you know, in the Advocate Hub there is the in-app messaging feature, and a lot of people maybe use it only for logistical things or business things, letting someone know when the reward has arrived, or if asking them how the reference call went. But you may want to expand your use of the in-app messaging system. And a lot of successful admins are always in constant communication with their advocates. So for example, you can start out right away by sending an introduction message to any new advocates. And in my experience, when I first joined the Influitive VIP Hub, I got a message from Truman. Right, this is when I was applying to work at Influitive, and I joined the hub, and Truman sent me a message, and it gave me a much nicer feeling about the company because he was welcoming me. Right, and that's just the basic place you can start with. Send messages to new advocates. If you know something about them, you can make it a little bit more personal, but at least let them know that you're there, introduce yourself, and tell them that they can always get in touch with you. And next, if you find that your advocates are doing a lot of good work, they're completing a lot of challenges, they're putting extra effort into certain challenges, you may want to send them a message and compliment them on how great their challenge completions are. And even better, you may want to give them a few points as well. But basically, don't just send them messages when you need something from them or for logistical issues. Just compliment them when you think that they're doing well. And finally, definitely always wish them a happy birthday. That is very important and very impactful. And we can talk a little bit later about how we can find birthdays in a clever way. And the second big, very new kind of component, since we have the new great community feature on Influitive, you can make use of that. Before, you could only interact really through challenge feedback or messages, but now you have this entire community, right, where you can interact and be a member of this community with your advocates as well. And just let me answer one question here. Carrie asks, will this text be available after the call? And the answer is yes. Just for anybody curious, this will all be sent in the follow-up email after the class is finished. So back to the community. Have you created an introductions thread? So that is one where you introduce yourself and where your advocates introduce themselves. If you haven't, why not? You should get on that. And not only that, when advocates introduce themselves, you should follow up and reply to each of those posts so that they know that you're actually reading their messages. That goes a long way. And you should always participate in the community conversation as well. You know, you let your advocates, your customers participate as well. That's important. But you want to be known as a member of their community. You want to be their representative in your company. And don't just do business-related posts, things that can help you out. Post fun and interesting topics and participate in fun and interesting topics as well. Okay, so that, again, that's the bare minimum what you can do. Fairly easy things to help your advocates get to know you. And when they get to know you, they're much more likely to stick around and do greater and greater things for you. So going a bit deeper, this was actually Deena's recommendation. Maybe if your advocates are around the country, around the world, it's difficult to actually meet them in person. So we can get a little bit deeper by arranging video chats with groups of people or individual advocates, like your top advocates. You can decide who you want to meet with. But Google Hangouts is a great way, a very easy way to just gather a few people. You can use this opportunity to get feedback about your product, maybe bring someone from your product team onto this Hangout. But really you want this to be a way to get to know each other. Because as the advocate marketer, you want to be the face and the voice now of your organization, of your company, to the advocates. And you can do that through email, through messages, of course. But if they can see you and they can hear you, they're much more likely to have a deeper relationship with you. So don't underestimate that power of being able to see someone. You can look them in the eye through the webcam and kind of get to know them without physically being in front of them. But, of course, taking it offline is going one step further. And like I said with the last one, you can't necessarily meet them, but there are certain things you can do to strengthen your relationship, because online relationships can seem surface level. It's really easy to send an email. It's really easy to send a message. So send handwritten notes to advocates. Maybe thank them for joining, or thank them give them a birthday card. There are a few ways to do this. You could do it on your own by writing out. That would take a long time. Or there's a few services such as HandyMail and MailLift where you enter your message into their service and then someone writes a handwritten message and sends it to them from your address, actually. So you could cheat a little bit, and to be honest, advocates may not know. Or you could just go ahead and send them a postcard, a personal one. So there's a few ways you can do it. And again, this last example is from Deena as well. When she had a baby, she sent a birth announcement to her top advocates just to say, I know you care about me, I care about you, so I'm letting you know this is happening in my life. And it just helps to strengthen the relationship. Not everybody will have a birth announcement, but something similar. Send postcards from your trip to Singapore. And just sending any kind of offline physical material is going to be very helpful. Okay, now moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about gathering this information. So you want to gather information about advocates so that you can personalize your experience with them. So how do you know when it's their birthday? How do you know what they're interested in? How can you formulate these personalized emails and letters? Well, we have challenges and community. We have the AdvocateHub to help with that. But before, I thought it would be an interesting question because, again, a couple of admins, of advocate marketers who I know, have added their advocates to Facebook. They have gone so far as to get that personal. And this, I'm putting this under the gathering information category because not only this, it's not only building a personal relationship, but it's a way for you to learn more about your advocates, and you can use that information in the future. So I'm just wondering, have you added anyone to Facebook? Are you willing to? Or just no way? Okay. So far, looks like no one has actually added someone to Facebook. Maybe you didn't think about it. But at least we have, so far, half of the respondents are at least willing to. So that's interesting. I'm glad half of you are willing to, half of you are not. And I would just say for those who are not willing to, maybe you might consider adding them, but using Facebook's list features, right? You can add people to certain lists. Like I segment my family from my friends, from my old high school friends, right? And it's just a way to easily segment people You don't have to add them so they see every one of your posts. If you add them into a certain Facebook segment, they can only see the things that you want them to see instead of all your personal pictures and information as well. So you might consider that. I think that's enough time for everybody. So again, nobody has added your advocates to Facebook, but maybe you didn't think about it. But it's good that about just over half of you are willing to at least consider adding your advocates to Facebook. And think about using the list and segmentation features of Facebook as well. All right. Let's carry on. Okay. So we're going to talk about gathering the information. So what kind of information are you wanting to gather? So you want to get personal information. That might sound creepy, but I don't mean like address, age, all that kind of thing. I mean things that can be useful to use in the future, such as the birthday. You want to find some clever ways of finding all of this information actually. You don't want to necessarily just come out and say, hey, what's your birthday? Because advocates are probably going to realize what you want that for. And when you wish them happy birthday in the future, they're going to remember, this is not that personal. I remember you asked me this before. So we'll talk about a clever way to find that information in a bit. But you also want to find information such as what their favorite movie is, their favorite genre of movies or music or games, what their favorite coffee is, right? And you want to gather all of this information. I don't think I should have written wish them happy birthday there, so ignore that line. But gather some personal information about your advocate's interests and, importantly, their birthday. So how can you collect this information? You can collect this through a series of fun challenges when the advocate is being onboarded, because you want this early in the advocate lifecycle so that you can use it later and then surprise the advocate because they probably forgot that they provided this information long ago. You can take advantage of community discussions as well. So have a community topic which asks about certain interesting topics about an advocate and keep track of that. So document all this information about your advocates. And then, again, like I mentioned, add advocates on Facebook. And since most of your advocates probably connected Facebook to their advocate profile, you can find them easily by just clicking on the Facebook link in the advocate profile. So now let's continue to talk a little bit about some creative ways we can learn more about the advocate. I mentioned before that you don't want to just ask the advocate for the birthday. So a while ago I came up with this idea, maybe clever, I don't know, I think it's clever. But you ask the advocate what celebrities they share a birthday with. And in my case, I share a birthday with Elizabeth Taylor. So now that you know that, I can expect you to say happy birthday to me whenever that is. Right? It's presented as a fun challenge, but you can document this in your spreadsheet or just keep it and come back to the challenge when you want to know when advocates' birthdays are. Again, ask the advocate what kind of coffee they like, because down the road you may meet the advocate, then you can come back to this information you have about them, and then when you meet them, have that coffee in hand. And just some community posts, again, you can find out what kind of person they are by asking them what kind of pets they like. Do they have a cat? Do they have a dog? Later when you're going to send them gifts or meet them and give them something, it can be related to people who are a cat person, give them something, or a dog person. But it all depends on your advocate, what kind of information you want to learn. Use your challenges, use your community posts early on, and just gather that information and keep that information. So once you have it, right, you need to put it somewhere. So one of the things that we do at Influitive, we have a calendar. So when people give their birthday on Influitive VIP, we put that into a calendar so that we know which customers' birthdays are coming up. So we know if we should send them something, send them a message at least, so that we can share this with our entire CS team so that people can reach out and wish people a happy birthday. So if you get a birthday wish from us, now I guess you know why we know it's your birthday. So keep this other information as well, such as favorite coffee, favorite music. Keep that all in a spreadsheet somewhere, just so that you can come back and reference it in the future. And if you want to get really advanced, you can actually set up webhooks, which if you want to know about that, you can just contact us at support@influitive.com. And when people answer surveys, you can have it automatically put into a spreadsheet just to take that work off of you. Right? This is a little bit more advanced, so it's going to take too long to go in today, but I just want to let you know that such things are possible. So now that you have all of this personal information, you want to think about how you can use that. So you may not want to send a physical gift to every single advocate because that gets expensive and difficult. So scale up the effort based on your advocate's level. But like I said, at bare minimum, every advocate should at least get a birthday email from you or a birthday message in the hub. That can be accompanied by a gift card or a perk of some points, but just at base, everyone should get some kind of birthday response from you. You can find a way to automate that, but of course it's always better to write a new message every time. And that's one of the things that doesn't necessarily scale well, but it's very impactful. And this is just my idea, but you can decide how to scale it up. But I was thinking that advocates in the second level might get an actual physical letter in the mail. And advocates in your third highest level, give them a phone call and a letter in the mail, or a card, I guess. And then your top advocates, definitely your top advocates, the highest level, people with the most points, doing the most for you, should get a gift. And you will know what kind of gift to get them based on their responses to challenges, what kind of beer they like, what kind of movies they like, that kind of thing. So you want to give these top advocates lots of attention so that they keep coming back and doing great things for you. And now let's move on into the final section of this presentation. And we're going to talk about actually physically meeting the people, meeting advocates, and a couple of things you can do when you actually meet advocates. And again, this information is right from the experience of admins, advocate marketers such as Deena, who I mentioned before. One of her greatest successes was that whenever she went to a conference that either her company held or was an industry conference, she was always working either at the booth, if it was another company's industry conference, or if it was their conference, she was always at the registration table. Right, so you and other administrators from your Advocate Hub, you should all be working at the registration table. This sounds tough, right? Because doing a registration table can be very, very difficult. But you want to be, like I said, the face of the company, and you want to be the voice of the customer in your company, and you want them to think of you as the company one and the same, right? And this will help to strengthen the relationship you made online. So you can meet them, you can shake their hand, look them in the eye, give them a hug, right? This could help to strengthen all of that work you've put into building the relationship online. And remember, you will have all of this information you learned about them through the hub, through adding them on Facebook. So once you meet them, try to bring up some personal information. And this is where you can have a cheat sheet. So before you go to your conference, you know which of your advocates will be coming. And this is where you can get clever, but it's a little bit of work, and you'll have to study a little bit or have this cheat sheet around. So pull all of the info of the advocates you know you're going to see that day. So if you're at the booth or at the registration table, you know certain advocates are coming. So make the most of this time by using the information you have gathered. So what does that mean? So if you're meeting one or two advocates, bring them something. Bring them their favorite dessert based on something you learned from a challenge or community post. Or bring them their favorite flower. Bring them, again, which is always easy, their favorite coffee order. But basically, and then if you know something about them, you know they had a baby recently, you know they had a career change or something, just bring up that information. You can have all that information on their cheat sheet, and they're going to be really, really surprised that you remember that. But really, you're just taking that all from the information you've been gathering over time. So remember, this is a long-term thing. Always be collecting this information and keep it in mind. So again, if you're meeting 1 or 2 advocates, bring them something personal. But if you're meeting a lot of advocates, just try to remember who they are, what their names are, a little bit about them. And at least if you're working at the booth or the table, you can see them face to face. Okay. That was one final thing. I've composed all of your feedback from the VAP challenge and put it into the last few slides. So the first part was information came from Influitive, from Deena, and from other admins here. And this information coming up is from you guys who answered the challenge in VIP. So the first one, it comes from Lyle. I wish Lyle had a picture on VIP so I could show his beautiful face, but unfortunately I cannot. His feedback, so the question actually was, tell us how to make your hub more personal, how you make your hub more personal. And Lyle says that he uses humor and real life stories when interacting with customers or advocates. If he is a former customer and he uses that information and can build that relationship with his advocates because he used to be one of them. And I definitely encourage using humor when interacting with people. Even on the support side, using humor in my emails really helps to lighten the mood and make people more friendly with me, build a more congenial relationship. And Michael, again, he has the suggestion of making personalized challenges. So in this case, maybe he means personalized based on their interests and where they live, what kind of industry they're in. You can get all of that information by asking them questions in other challenges. And he also recommends that you do lots of feedback and response questions because you can learn a lot about people by their responses to surveys. So this is kind of going off of Michael's comment. Sarah says you should ask questions and then segment advocates into groups based on the answers to their questions. So that's perfect. And in fact, Bevin, on this next slide here, he has the same idea. And it's a little bit more detailed, so I'll read this one. Bevin says, I set up an intro challenge asking a range of questions about job, role, company size, industry, interests, etc. And then you set up the groups based on these jobs, roles, company, interests, which is really, really good idea. Because as you may know, we have the very powerful segmentation engine which allows you to create groups based on answers to questions. So he does end up with a lot of groups, but when you want to make very, very personal, very relevant challenges and target them to these certain interest groups, industry groups, or company groups, then it's very easy after you've already segmented people through an intro challenge. So it's definitely a good idea to create one of those intro challenges because you can learn a lot about the advocate right away. Oh, this should actually say Bo, but Bo says, try to create smaller challenges that are relevant based on their interests, which is going to complement Devin's response before. So you would do that based on targeting, based on challenge completions from the introduction challenge or other questions. All right, and a couple left. Kelly has it already. She's already halfway there. I send tons of personal messages to my advocates and try to connect with them on Twitter. So I guess I mentioned Facebook before, but Twitter is perfectly fine as well. It's a little bit less invasive. If you don't want to add them on Facebook, you could add them on Twitter. But it also again, goes to show how much you care about building a relationship with them. And yes, send lots and lots of personal messages just so that you're always in touch with them. So thank you, Kelly, for that one. And Kelly, so I guess I messed up on the name of this one as well. Oops. But you send personalized note cards and that accompany reward vouchers. So again, personalized handwritten cards, that is the best way to go. That's going one step above and actually sending them something physical. Lots of messages online is great, but you definitely want to send them something physical. And Tamsin asked the question, do you send messages via the hub or to their email address? So Kelly, I think Kelly is watching right now. Maybe she could answer that since she mentioned that one. But I think she probably means she sends through the in-app, in-hub messaging system. Yep, and she agrees that is what she does. Thank you, Kelly. And this picture is not Kelly, by the way. Just, yeah. And the last one, Kelly says she uses the hub because she likes the header that goes with the email. So the AdvocateHub email template looks good, I guess, with the email. So that's good to know. Because you have, instead of sending from your personal email, you get the branded hub email when you send them a message. And finally, last one is from Ryan. Ryan, I think, is running a program for employees only, so that's why we have specific badges which are departmentally focused. So that means different, so maybe badges for customer success, badges for dev, badges for marketing, right? So he's personalizing it for his employees. And one of the great things I like about Ryan's Hub is that it is extremely lighthearted, very conversational. I try to do that as well in my writing and when I'm writing challenges. It depends, of course, on your audience, but I think in general, people, since we're all humans, we enjoy humor. So definitely have lots of humor and lighthearted so that you are, like I said, you're not a robot. You are a human with empathy, and if you write lighthearted, challenge text, people are going to realize that. And Kelly actually has an interesting point about why she likes Hub emails. Sending messages to the Hub will send the Hub email notification, and it just reminds people of the context of the email they're getting. So if advocates get an email from her personal email, they wouldn't realize maybe that it's coming from their advocate marketing program from the Advocate Hub. So that makes a lot of sense. And that is actually the end. But of course, if you have any questions or feedback, then feel free. You can write it in the chat box down at the bottom. Be more than happy if you have any more ideas that I didn't cover, or if you have any questions about how to do something, just write it down in the bottom there. I'll give you a couple minutes, maybe if you think about or compose your message. But otherwise, yeah, I think maybe no one has any comments. Okay. So if not, if we do come up with any comments, I'll create a community topic in the Influitive VIP community, and you can talk more in depth about how you get personal with your advocates. This is just kind of a quick overview, but I'm thankful for all of your comments. And Ryan has a question, actually. Is the webinar going to be available online? It will be on YouTube shortly. I think tomorrow morning we'll have it on YouTube, and there will be, I'll make a community post in the Influitive VIP community, just so that it's easy for you to find. Good. Okay, so it looks like no questions. So everybody, thank you very much. Expect a follow-up email to come tomorrow morning with the link to the video and the link to the community topic. And I appreciate all of the interactions in the chat today. And have a great afternoon or evening for some people. And thank you for coming to class, and see you in a couple weeks.